bottom or any cross bracing across the top, the popsicle sticks that would actually connect these bridges. You can certainly place popsicle sticks individually. That'll take an extremely long amount of time. So I want to show you a feature that I haven't shown in class yet, but it will save you a ton of time. So the only requirement is after you have your bridge, no way. The only requirement is after you have your bridge, as we designed before. I fused this together, so it was one piece. You don't need to, but I just wanted to simplify some things. The important part is you design a popsicle stick. So I put a cube in and I gave it the dimensions. It's generally 2/10 of thickness, 6 inches long, and 5 inches wide. So depending on which axis or which plane you're in, you're going to have to play around with these numbers. But you want the popsicle stick design so it's in the same orientation as you would like it laid down. And what I mean by that is I would not want to design it like this. So I want these popsicle sticks to be laid down this way across the bridge. So I needed to make sure that when I designed it, it was exactly as I wanted it to lay down. So you need to make sure you design that so it's in the orientation you'd like. And then once you've done that, it's fairly simple. So what I need to do is I need to highlight the popsicle stick, and then I need to rotate my bridge. And what you need to do is you need to choose your popsicle stick, and while holding down Command, you need to choose the path you would like that popsicle stick to follow. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom in, and I want it to follow this line right here. So I'm going to hold Command, and I'm going to click that line. So it's going to say take this popsicle stick and run it along, and I'll zoom in so you can see, run it along this specific line. So I want that popsicle stick to run along that line and follow that path. Once I've done that, if I select those two, we're going to go into a part of the menu that we haven't seen yet. So you're probably in part design or maybe part. You're going to go where it says draft. And you might have to kind of slide these menus out as I show you in class, just so you can see everything. What you're looking for is you're looking for the bar that has all the blue tools. And the giveaway is you're going to see this picture of a sheep. We don't want that. We want the one that's 2 to the left, which looks like blocks that are following a line. That's going to tell this block to repeat itself along this path. So if I just have those two highlighted and I click, by default, if you see down below, it's automatically already thrown 4 in by default. Now, if I want to adjust those, if I want more or less than 4, you'll notice over here in the menu it says Path Array. I simply just have to come down to where it says Count, and I can adjust that to whatever I like. Maybe I want 8. It'll automatically place 8 along that path. It'll take care of the spacing so it's even. One of the things you might want to do, I'm not sure why this happens, but you'll notice if I view this from the side or from the front, that this one kind of sticks out on its own. Every now and then, if you choose Path Array, X-late, that basically means like translate. So I kind of want along the X-axis. I want this one to kind of nudge back a little bit. So you usually, for whatever reason, you need to kind of usually like negative 0.2, or something along those lines. You need to play around with that number a little bit. Probably maybe a little bit more, so it's in a little bit, maybe negative 2.5. I'm not quite sure why this happens, but you need to play around with it a little bit, so now as I look at it, nothing's quite sticking out. All right, so if at some point down the road I wanted to add more, I simply just come back in here and I change the count number. I put 15 in if I wanted to. I'm going to follow the same process for the top arc as well. To save myself time, I can actually just copy and paste that popsicle stick. Just make sure you paste it outside of the menu. So now I've got that popsicle stick again. I don't have to create it. Again, that's the orientation I want, but now I'm going to choose that popsicle stick, and I'm going to choose this path here. So I want it now to repeat along this path. So I'm going to choose this. It's going to kind of split those up, and I can set the number that I'd like. So let's say this time I want 10. Now the one thing you'll notice, since this is like an arch, you could certainly leave it like this to a certain extent, but you'll notice that these are kind of floating out. They don't rotate with the arch. So it's fairly simple. You just go down here above the count where it says align. It'll say false. But I actually want that to be true. I want that to align with the arch itself. So if I select that, you'll notice it now follows that arch. So if I look at the front, it kind of follows straight along. I do have that issue where this side is fine, but this side is kind of sticking out a little bit. Again, not entirely sure why that happens. So I'll go back in, and I just have to play around with the translate a little bit. So I'll try negative 0.25 again, and that kind of fixed it. So depending on orientation, it is a little annoying, but you will have to play around with that. And you'll notice that this is not quite where I want it to be. So I have two options. I can certainly go in here, and I could play around with the placement. And I could say I want this to go, the position, I want this to go, I believe, nope. positive 6. I could certainly move that over, and it will now line itself up. So I'm in a pretty good position. If, however, I didn't want to do that, what I could do is I could delete this array. And I could say, instead of choosing this side, what I could do is, since it's sticking out to the side, I'll choose this path over here. So I'll choose that popsicle stick and that path. And now if I do that, oh, it's actually doing the same exact thing. So sometimes it fixes it, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm actually just going to go into the position, and I'm going to move it however far I need to. Now again, just to reiterate, if I want that to kind of follow along, I'm going to choose true. So now it'll curve a little bit, and of course, this lovely program makes me keep going back in and changing this position. All right, so again, if I want at any point to go in and I want to change the number, then I just come down to number, and I'm going to adjust these like so. All right, so it's a real simple way to add that cross bracing, and now I should be able to kind of analyze this bridge. If you have beams you want to add on the side, you can do that as well. But to add the deck and to add the cross bracing across the top, it works fairly well. If you want to set diagonal, it's a little bit trickier. You'll probably need to do that manually. But if you want any kind of repeated bridge decking, you can use this. To show you how to work on a bridge truss, it's the same thing. I have my bridge done. It's a little bit different because I don't have an arch. I need to just follow the straight line. So I'll choose my popsicle stick. I will choose the straight line over here. And if I click on create sketches or follow along that line, I can now change the number by simply increasing or decreasing. I can go in here and I can copy and paste my popsicle stick again. I will select it. And now this time, let's say I want to add on the side, I will choose the side line and I will do follow path. And I get those, and I can just repeat this process. So I can choose my cube, choose my popsicle stick, copy and paste it. Now I would like it to follow the top section. And you can notice that it's fairly straightforward once you have the initial popsicle stick set. Now again, you might have to mess with some of these by using like the translate. Again, not sure why. A lot of times you have to adjust these slightly. So you can play around with that, but you'll notice that this saves you a lot of time, and fairly quickly you get that cross bracing set up. All right, so you can continue with the other side as well. Now last would be the beam bridge, and again, it's very similar. I have my popsicle stick. I'm going to choose my popsicle stick, and I'm going to select follow this path, and then I just simply choose this option in the draft tools. I can change the count, and it will automatically adjust that. So save yourself a lot of time by using the follow path tool in the draft options. You really don't have to use this align function unless you are doing some kind of arch or some kind of curve. Yes, unlike this truss, you notice that these are not rotated, but it's really not going to matter whether they're rotated or not because they are still connected to the bridge. That's not an issue. The reason we need to do that with the arch bridge is that if you don't do that, they tend not to line up, and sometimes they float off into space. And last, don't forget that sometimes you have to mess around with this X-late for whatever reason to make sure that they line up on both sides. Not sure why it happens, but save yourself a lot of time using this function. Good luck.